A lot of people are wondering what Throne and Liberty is like, so I thought it would be good to take a second and go over the current state of the game. I want to start this off by being very clear and upfront with what this video is going to be. This is going to be a video that goes over some of the recent updates to give you a general idea on the direction of the game. And it's also going to give you a basic entry-level view of Throne and Liberty. So this isn't going to be like an in-depth review video. I am planning on doing that, but honestly feel like I need to experience more of the game first, which is a game that's designed around unlocking content in the form of server milestones. So we don't have a very clear feeling of what end game really feels like. Well, not yet, because these milestones, as they unlock, we're going to get more content added to the game, and that's going to affect progression. It's going to affect what we do on a day-to-day basis. It's going to affect the pay to win. It's going to affect the free to play and all of that. So I'm really trying to bite my tongue with giving my final in-depth, honest review on the game until after I experience that. But I am asked quite a bit with, how the game is right now. So I thought it'd be good to kind of go over the current state of the game because, well, when you're about a month into the game, there is some pretty decent insight that you could provide. So that's what this video is going to be. First, let's talk about the game a little bit. Throne and Liberty is a classic MMORPG style game, only with modern day graphics. Unreal Engine 4. The world looks beautiful. It's completely open world. So if you're looking for a game that is a little bit more in line with classic WoW, Ion, Vanilla Arcade, I know all those games are quite different from one another, but this game is really kind of a mixture of those types of games. If you're looking for a classic MMO only with really, really good graphics, Throne and Liberty might scratch that itch for you. Give you an example of a more challenging / classic gameplay experience. We could take a look at the mobs. In this game, you're going to immediately notice that the mobs have higher HP, they deal a lot of damage, you run into mana issues, health regen issues. First of all, your health and mana is regenerated via regen, an actual stat. Max HP, max MP, HP regen, MP regen, these are legitimate stats that you have to consider when building up your character, much like classic MMOs. Specifically when it comes to the mobs, like I said in the beginning, they're a little bit tankier, they deal some damage, you have the HP and MP issues in the early game that you have to spec into as you go, but these mobs also become increasingly difficult. How do they become difficult? Well, outside of the HP and the damage that they have, you're going to notice that they start executing more mechs. Suddenly they start rooting you. They start stunning you. Now they start to stun you at range. Now all of a sudden they start summoning other minions or other mobs in the area to help them. And this just continually evolves as you level up and as you go to the more advanced zones. You have obviously ranged, magic, different types of mobs. They become completely saturated in some of these later zones to the extent that you really need to actually group up, or it would be to your benefit to group up. Otherwise, you just won't be able to do it, or it will be extremely difficult to do so. Now, you can solo all these zones, but obviously it'll just be a lot more effective by partying up with a group, just like how classic WoW is to a certain extent. Now, this incentive to group up with other players will also enhance the social experience when it comes to this game, much like classic games like classic WoW. Throne and Liberty has a huge emphasis on guilds. So a large part of your experience will be determined or influenced based off of the guild that you join. Are you going to join a hardcore guild, a casual guild? What kind of events are you going to be participating in? We're not going to go through all the features, but just know that if you are a player that wants more of a solo Kirito style experience, this game might not be for you. This game is very clear in what direction it's going in, and the direction and identity that this game has is that they want the game to focus around guilds. You want to join a guild that is in line with your play style because you progress together as a guild. Your progression will be determined to a certain degree with that guild. You're going to have benefits and disadvantages to whatever guilds that you join. There's just a huge emphasis on guilds. Another big concern for people is the combat. A lot of people are taking a look at these early game combat footages and they're like, this looks slow, this looks clunky, mobile-esque. And that's just simply not true once you hit level 50. Again, just like classic games, the best example that I can give is classic WoW Warrior when it comes to the pacing of combat in the early game versus late game. It's super slow, kind of bad, pretty bad in the early game, but then it really picks up and it's rewarding at the end. Throne Liberty is no different. You invest a lot of time building up your character, and that also goes with skills that evolve, your gear, your stats. Every decision that you make with your character is pretty significant because you have to invest in whatever direction you're going. And as you invest in that direction, the character really starts coming together. And the first way that that is shown is through combat. When you hit level 50 and you have a decent build together, you're going to notice a big difference. The best way for me to describe the combat in Throne Liberty would probably be that it is a little bit more in line with classic Arcade. I think Arcade combat is probably the closest thing to the combat system in Throne Liberty when you hit level 50. When it comes to the content in Throne Liberty and what you're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis, I feel like they delivered quite a dynamic and interesting experience that I haven't really seen in other MMOs. Most MMOs, you have your grind content and then your performance content. In Throne and Liberty, they've really combined the two. What do I mean by that? Well, in Throne and Liberty, you're not really wasting your time by PvPing. You're not wasting your time by doing a GVG or guild versus guild. By participating in those activities, you are progressing your character. That is part of the main gameplay loop that this game incentivizes you to do. There are a lot of events that happen every single hour, and participating in any of these events will net you gains that you need in order to progress your character. This creates an environment where you don't really feel like you're wasting your time by going out and doing this GVG. You don't feel like you're wasting your time when your friend is like, hey, I need help with something, or hey, I want to do something. Do you want to party up? You know, a lot of other games, you kind of fall into the situation where you want to play with your friend, but it would actually impede on your progression, or it would be a complete waste of time for you to do so. I don't want to say it's non-existent in Throne and Liberty. I don't think it's possible for any MMO for that to be completely non-existent, but it is not nearly as present as it is in other games. For the most part, if you want to do something, or if your friend wants to do something, or if your guild wants to do something, participating in that event or that activity will be beneficial for all parties. Speaking of content, the last thing that I want to mention are the dungeons before we get into the recent events / current state of the game. This is going to be pretty short because there's really not much to say other than the fact that the dungeons are actually really good. The boss fights, the world fights, or the world boss fights rather, are really good. But when it comes to the 6-man instance dungeons that they recently added, they're really good. There are a lot of different dungeons and bosses that you could participate in, and these bosses and these dungeons all give different rewards that are pretty unique depending on what build or class that you're playing or weapon that you're wielding. Each boss that you experience is actually really fun. It's good. It's not overly difficult, but it's also challenging enough for you to be engaged. Usually, if you're learning a brand new dungeon, it'll probably take you and your group about a couple of hours. But if you're running with an experienced group, you can finish, it depends on the dungeon, but you could usually finish anywhere from 2 to 4 dungeons every single hour. Again, depending on your gear, the experience, but usually that's what it's going to be like. And these dungeons are just really fun. They have solid mechanics that are thought through, but these mechanics aren't overly difficult. They just obviously need everyone in the party to execute fairly well. And then there are DPS checks. For the most part, the dungeons are really well designed, and it helps that the game just looks graphically great. And on top of that, man, the one thing that I will say that Throne Liberty does better than any other game, in my personal opinion, is the music. Man, we've been playing this game for almost a month, and I still have not muted the game audio. I play with the BGM, I play with the music, and it's just really good, especially the boss fights. So big W there. So now let's talk about some of the things that are happening currently in the KR version. The first thing that I'm going to say is that they have announced in their latest dev stream that they are welcoming foreigners playing their game. First and foremost, if you didn't know, the KR version of the game does have an English client. There's English available. Everything's translated. It is fantastic. With that said, they have openly now said that they are not going to be banning users. They welcome them. They said that this game was designed with a Western audience in mind, and that foreigners, Chinese, Europeans, Americans, they're all gamers like us, and they are welcome to play the game. Now, there is a little bit of a botting issue that we have been beginning to see, and they did say that they are aggressively banning those users, people that are botting, people that are going against terms of service, malicious gameplay, these users, they are aggressively banning. They've banned 9,000 accounts since launch. There was a ban wave. Yes, maybe there are some foreigners that got caught in the crossfire there, but they were very clear in saying that foreigners were allowed to play. So as long as you have a legitimate Korean ID or an ID that has a verified Korean ID attached to it, then you're good to go. You don't have to worry about getting banned like people were getting banned in Japan for Blue Protocol. You're totally safe. And I think this is really, really good, especially for the current Western audience that's playing on the KR servers, because there's a lot of us, to the point where the server that we're playing on is literally 50% English. Like, you have world chat in English. Koreans know it's in English. They call us the hamburger bros. It's actually a thing. So if you're interested in playing the game, play on the KR version. As long as you can get a legitimate account, you don't have to worry about being banned because it's against terms of service. They are welcoming it. Now, the other thing that they mentioned in regards to the Western audience was the monetization. They said that they did design this game, even the Korean version, with the Western audience in mind, and that they wanted to keep it consistent, both the East and West, when it comes to the monetization. I don't know if this means that the AGS version is going to have the exact same monetization, but I don't think they're going to remove the Lucent system, which is the main form of pay to win in this game that the Western audience is concerned about. I don't want to talk too much about how pay to win this game is in this video. I will save that for a different video, but just know that no one knows how pay to win this game is until all the server milestones have been unlocked. This is why I just made a recent pay to win video at that moment in time to kind of paint a picture with the current state at that moment. It was not reflective of what the game was going to be, and we have learned a lot in regards to the pay to win even since that video. This game definitely has pay to win in it. We don't know how big the gaps are though, and that will be the most important question. There's still milestones that need to be unlocked, and as we unlock these milestones, that is going to directly tie to the pay to win / vertical progression in the game. So we just have to wait and see. But yes, there are pay to win mechanics, and no, the pay to win is really not that bad in the game right now. No one in the game really, for the most part, is complaining about the pay to win. Everyone's just having a pretty good time. Another thing worth mentioning when it comes to the overall state of the game are the updates. Whether they are balance patch updates, nerfing stupidly broken mechanics or stupidly broken weapons, or increasing drop rates with dungeons, or just bettering the quality of life when it comes to Throne Liberty, they have definitely been delivering on these updates, and these updates have been coming in fairly frequently. We've already had multiple updates, and we're not even a month into the game. So big W there. The community, both from the Westerners and Easterners, are overall just very happy with the updates. This is also pretty reflective of their overall tone, especially in their last dev stream. They're still coming off as like apologetic and, hey, we know you've been jaded by us in the past, but this time we're going to try and convince you it's different. It's very much that tone. And you know what? At the end of the day, you could call bullshit on that all you want. It is NCSoft. The likelihood of it being bullshit and them turning around and adding these RNG boxes or whatever, probably still fairly high. But so far, they've been doing a great job, to the point where even the Koreans are starting to come around a little bit in the comment section. They are starting to say, okay, the game is actually pretty good. A lot of the Koreans are admitting now that the game is actually pretty damn good. And they're like, okay, so far, we're watching you, but so far, yeah, it's been pretty good, but we'll see. We're just going to have to wait and see. You know, that's pretty much the tone. At the end of the day, a lot of us want to like this game. A lot of us want to believe that narrative. And of course, we're going to give it another shot just because the game is good. But no, would I bet the house that this time is going to be different? Obviously not. But so far, it's been pretty good. Now, moving forward, there is a lot of exciting content to look forward to thanks to the server milestone system. We'll have to wait and see once all those milestones are hit. But as of now, the content cadence and the vertical progression pacing is pretty damn good. Everyone is having a pretty good time playing the game. Most people that I know are either completely addicted to it or admit that it is very good. I don't know anyone, maybe outside of one friend of mine, who has said that the game is garbage. Everyone is saying that it's either pretty good or that they are completely addicted to it. So right now we are certainly in the honeymoon phase of the game, but you know what? That's okay. Honeymoon phase that lasts over a month for an MMORPG, I think is a net W. So I'm going to continue streaming it. And if you guys want to check out the game for yourself, be sure to join me on Twitch. As the story continues, we are still the ranked #1 guild on our server, Foreigner Guild, English speaking guild. And our mission is to take the castle come February 2nd or 3rd, or so it's like the first week of February. We need to retain our #1 spot until then. So come check the game out if you're wondering what the game is like. I'm streaming Throne and Liberty almost every single day on Twitch, so be sure to join me there. Like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video.